Hello, lovelies! With a spirited toddler at home and another on the way imminently, I am trying to keep things in the kitchen as simple as possible these days. And that is why pasta is right at the top of my list of weeknight dinner dishes. I absolutely love pasta because, of course, it's quick, easy, and the flavor possibilities are absolutely endless. Today's pasta dish is this absolutely incredible chicken bruschetta penne. And I think you guys are going to adore it. Not only is it really filling and satisfying, but it's surprisingly light and fresh. Plus, it comes together in under 15 minutes. So let's be honest, there's a lot to love. Now the first step here is going to be cooking up our pasta. So I've got a nice big pot of salted water bubbling away on the stove. And to that, I'm going to add my penne. You can use any type of pasta you want in this recipe. It's really versatile. Just whatever you have on your pantry will do. Now, while that pasta is boiling away, we can turn our attention to cooking up our chicken for this recipe. So to get started, I'm just gonna heat up some olive oil in a nice big skillet on the stove. You wanna be working with a nice big pot for this recipe because we're going to be transferring all of that yummy pasta directly into the pot. And just as soon as my olive oil is hot, I'm gonna go in here and add my chicken. Now, I've opted for some boneless, skinless chicken breast. To be honest, that's what was on sale at my supermarket, so that's what I'm using. I've cut it into 1-inch cubes. If you don't have chicken breast on hand, you could definitely do this with chicken thighs if you wanted to. You could also skip the meat entirely and keep this one totally meatless. It's up to you. Now, once that chicken is in the pan, of course, we wanna season it up liberally. I'm gonna hit it with some salt and some pepper. And I also wanna add some great flavor with some Italian seasoning. This is store-bought Italian seasoning, but if you wanted to use homemade instead, you definitely could. I have a great recipe for homemade Italian seasoning on the channel. I'll link it in the description box below. And we'll just let that chicken cook up until it starts to get nice and brown on the exterior. Now at this point, I wanna add some flavor to this. So I have got some finely diced shallot headed in here, as well as some minced garlic. If you don't have shallot on hand, not a problem, just use some yellow onion instead. Totally up to you. Now the good news is, because our pan is already nice and hot, that shallot and that garlic are going to take absolutely no time to soften up and become nice and fragrant. So after about a minute or so, you can go ahead and add your tomatoes to this. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this recipe is actually inspired by a classic bruschetta topping. So of course it has to have lots of beautiful tomatoes. I've got about 4 cups of chopped cherry tomatoes that I'm just going to pile into my skillet. I'm using a combination of some orange and some red cherry tomatoes. I just like the color combination, but use whatever you have on hand. And I just want to let those cook away for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. You want your tomatoes to get nice and heated through, but you don't want them to get too mushy. So we're looking for that nice sweet spot. Okay, friends, this is looking and smelling mighty good. And now for the final step, we are just going to transfer our pasta, which is now cooked, perfect timing, into the pan and toss it all together. Now you can always drain your pasta in a colander first, but these days, the fewer dishes I have to do, the happier I am. So I'm just going to use a slotted spoon to transfer my pasta straight from its boiling water right into my tomato and chicken mixture. And just that little bit of pasta water that gets transferred over helps to make this a nice rich sauce. It adds a little bit of starch to it. My final step, just to add a little bit of acidity to this, is going to be a splash of white balsamic vinegar. Now you could do this with regular dark balsamic vinegar, that's fine as well. I like the white because it doesn't sort of discolor the pasta, but it's totally up to you. Use whatever you have on hand. Give this a stir, and then we're going to finish this off once it's off the heat with a good helping of freshly grated Parmesan for some really excellent flavor, as well as some freshly chopped basil, which just adds a ton of brightness to the dish. All the best parts of bruschetta, except for in pasta form. This dish is really light and fresh tasting, but still super satisfying, so there's so much to love about it. I hope you'll give it a try for yourselves, and if you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Facebook me a photo, because I always love seeing your kitchen creations. Remember, this recipe, like all of my recipes, is featured on healthymealplans.com, our amazing meal planning site, which allows you to browse more than 1,000 recipes, drag and drop them into your weekly meal plans, and then automatically generates your grocery list for the week, so it's guaranteed to make your life in the kitchen easier. Thank you guys so much for watching, and finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.